Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we bring you day 316 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, in a conversational format between Olexiy Arestovich, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Enjoy. Dear viewers, glad to see you all. It is Thursday, January 5th, 3 minutes past 10 in Kiev, 3 minutes past 11 in Moscow. We are doing the usual stream with Olexiy Arestovich, day 316. Good evening, Olexiy. Good evening. We have 112,000 people watching us, 20,000 click the like button. Please continue sharing streams and information in your social media. Please do not forget to click that like button. That's a very little easy thing you can do, and subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and if you are listening or watching that in English language, subscribe to the Privateer Station channel as well. Alright, let's start with the news piece. I don't know if we can call it main or not main, depends how you treat it, but Putin pretended to have a certain discussion with Erdogan and then came out and with an idea of ceasefire for 1 day, and they called upon Patriarch Cyril in Russia to come out and call upon both sides to do a ceasefire and maybe to switch to negotiations later. So questions are, why did not you agree to the Catholic Christmas when Zelensky suggested? And Peskov barked something back and said that ineligible, that they're not doing it. And we already know that Podolyak and a bunch of other people already sent them to go, you know where, with that suggestion. So we want to hear your commentary on this. Does it mean that this is another lap for peace, love, and everything else? Well, it probably means that Erdogan will get a discount for natural gas. He's probably the only person who will get anything out of this. There's no Catholic or Orthodox Christmas. There's the same Christmas, it's just two different calendars that place it in different on different days in different countries. All right, let's not dive into the details of the calendars. But so, Alexei, what's your statement on this? Oh, Mark, we evaluated that, and our joint answer was go fuck yourselves. If we put it in a more diplomatic language, we have very transparent intentions. When we suggested for that armistice, they refused via Putin's speaker, Peskov. At that point, the initiative was suggested by Ukraine, and of course, they could not accept it, did not want to accept that. And this time, they want to take the initiative and suggest that and try to wipe out that instance of earlier refusal, that Russia refused to do any armistice around the holidays. And now they're trying to paint over that with their suggestion. And yeah, we do want to continue this war until the last foot of the last occupant gets out of our territory. And then we'll be able to sit down and negotiate. These are our conditions. There'll be no armistices, there'll be a ton of HIMARS and other artillery on your heads. So with that, those of Kremlin folk who are listening, take that suggestion, wrap it accurately, and shove it you know where. To your into your endless leader. Well, why am I saying they're listening? Is Alexei is because there was a commentary from Peskov who says that in Kremlin they do not think that advisor to the office of the president Mikhail Podolyak has actually expressed the position of Ukrainian leader. Direct quote, it is hard for us to gauge if Podolyak is expressing direct opinion of a Ukrainian leader. That's what they're writing. Why you dumb fucks decided to fight with Ukraine when you don't even understand our system of government? He's quoting how you making statements like that because you pretend you don't know how we run the country. I'm quoting Sun Tzu here. If you know your enemy, you win. You need to win to know your enemy in order to win. If you're engaging the war without knowing yourself and knowing the enemy, you're destined to lose. And these idiots, that's exactly how they present themselves. I would also comment there was another person from the office of the president, Danilov, who also confirmed that there will be no armistice discussions with Russia. And Mark, let's polish it with the third advisor to the office of the president and say, go fuck yourselves. And I'm saying it in the most diplomatic way. Seriously. All right, we noticed. Thank you. America is also announcing that, or stating that they do not have much trust to Russian suggestion of an armistice in the so-called, in Russia, the zone of special military operation. And basically, Washington does not trust Russia to follow through and would like to see Russia first withdrawing troops, and then perhaps that'll become a good display of a peaceful initiative. So let's play that out a little. If Russia indeed withdrew some troops, would that be accepted? Would that be interesting for Ukraine? We would, yes, Mark, it would be, and we would cheer that initiative. Except for there are a couple more steps they would need to follow with. They need to give us military criminals, war criminals, and start with reparations process. Thank you, Olexiy. So, in essence, your suggestion to Russia would be start withdrawing troops from Solidar, Bakhmut, and then there might be a chance for negotiations. No, Mark, I'm stating that they need to withdraw fully from our territory to the situation of February 22. And then we may think about negotiations. Okay, thank you, Olexiy. Let's now go to the events of the front, what happened in the last 2 days. Okay, Mark, it's about the same. They're transferring troops to Solidar area. And whom are they dropping here now? They're transferring new mobilized troops. The ones who got little lucky, who are not dumped into the front immediately, who actually had a couple months to get some training. And they're adding them to the front line here and there. What's the scale, Olexiy? Are we talking about tens of thousands? No, Mark, we're talking about maybe a total of about 10,000. But the process started. We see them starting to accumulate troops on the front, and this is basically a part of that other process we're observing, their initiative to do an offensive. And this is the one we're watching with our Western allies to see how to make that attempt for an offensive campaign the last one that Russia can carry out. And yesterday on Ramstein, they've been discussing exactly that. That was the precipice of these events when Ramstein is addressing how can we stop Russia? How can we make it run out of steam? And in Russia, they have 3 plans that we've heard. One of them, the crazy one, is attack everything, go from the north, go in the east, go in the south. The second one is a bit more sober, the one that says, okay, maybe near Kharkov and in Donetsk and Lugansk and a little bit in Zaporozhye to support that. And then the probably most logical and most realistic one is that focusing the effort in Donetsk and Lugansk areas. And they want to take Solidar and Bakhmut, at least in this push. Well, yeah, they've been fighting for that, right, Olexiy? Yeah, they've been trying to take them for about 3 months already. If they throw more troops, of course, it will not be fun for us at the beginning. It will be difficult work. But at the end of it, it will become even more fun because they'll run out of anything to support their front line. Okay, I'm reading some other news. There was another quarters shelled with, I think, HIMARS or something. And can you tell us more? Mark, yesterday we hit Tokmak. It was a sort of mini Makeivka. There were about 80 people in one building. And the day before yesterday, we hit them with about 20 or 40 casualties. But died, how many of them died? I don't think the whole 80 were destroyed. No, Mark, just realize that it's a series of different hits. 80, 20, 40, here, there. So altogether, yeah, it could be 100 plus. Cases like Makeivka, that's unique when we managed to get rid of 600 occupants in a single strike. But it's thousands. It comes to thousands of people every month of their occupant fighters destroyed per month. Does it affect their morale overall? Oh yeah. It of course it does affect the morale because they keep losing troops without even directly engaging the enemy very often. And that okay, thank you, Olexiy. That day-long 24-hour armistice, does it help to remedy anything on the front? If, for example, hypothetically that happened, no, a day of armistice is nothing. It's literally a little respite for the troops, and then again, people will continue shooting on the ground. So yeah, it's all fake. I see people in the chat talking about second Gavrilovka. I don't know what was hit there, and I haven't seen verification yet. Mark, there is a ton of different detailed speculations. People are asking. Yeah, okay, so Mark, imagine in Gavrilovka we shelled and killed 20 Russian soldiers. But these Gavrilovkas, they happen by a dozen every day. I don't know if there is a reason for me to sit down here and look in the phone for 5 minutes and keep reading Gavrilovka 20 people, that village 10 people, that village 15 people. The logic remains the same. We shell their warehouses, their forward operating bases, their barracks daily. And numbers are included in the daily report of our military. And they don't go into details of villages where we hit them or towns, but at least they're mentioning the directions on the southern front, on the eastern front. And I'm trying to stay away from going too deep into the weeds of which street was captured, whose soldier was killed where, with what chevron on his shoulder. My task is a little different. I'm trying to provide a strategic, high-level overview of the situation. Gavrilovka and all the details, you can watch that with a lot of other streams online. Okay, thank you, Olexiy. So there is Rammstein, right, happening this week. I think it's number 9. Right, Mark, who is counting? They started in May, so we are waiting from that Rammstein a couple important outcomes, because today in the media there was already reported that United States will be supplying armored vehicles, Bradleys, and Germany will start supplying Marder, another equivalent of armored vehicle, and Britain and other allies can also transfer tanks to Ukraine, chimes in Sky News with a reference to Mr. Cleverly from Great Britain, his statement. And when he was asked about what other weapons is Britain supporting Ukraine with, they said that they're supporting Ukraine with anything that will help it to hit Russian targets at a distance. So what do you say about this? One thing, Western support will continue and will increase in nomenclature. Here, again, it's my personal opinion that all the principal prohibitions for supply of any major weaponry to Ukraine, they've been removed. It's my personal opinion. This is not an official statement. The other case is timeframes and quantities, right? Because the West doesn't have too much, first of all, excessive supplies as well. They don't have much. So we shoot about 6,000 of shells, for example. They produce about 300,000 per year. So that's about 50 days worth of shooting. That's definitely a limiting factor and a problem that needs resolution. In regards to three most principal things, most important ones: aviation, second, ground armored systems, tanks, armored vehicles, and more missile systems. So according to these publications, the topic of armored vehicles has been unsealed. Bradley and mortar are about the same type of vehicles, both heavy, both on tracks. They're roughly at about the same type. And on the West, I think professionals are calculating how much will it be on the logistics side for us to equip, to maintain. So in a way, they're probably doing some universalization in the items that they're giving to us, because there might be some interchangeable things in both. And France announced that they're giving us a wheel-based tank. It's a very special equipment. It's a very light armor, very fast. It can jump from behind the backs of your troops, shoot with a very high precision at the enemy to support your army, and jump back out. And they're also giving us a Bastion. That's another armored vehicle, very specific in battle use. So in the last 24 days, we received several messages at the highest level that the question of supplying armored vehicles to Ukraine is solved. This is a good story, because depending how soon and how many will be supplied, we understand the West will be doing everything methodically. We understand the processes are different. Here we can do a quick repair in the field and even insert some aggregate from, I don't know, some Prius thing into the vehicle if something is broken. The West usually analyzes that, how many items they need to produce, what's the time, what's the capacity, who will be making that. If there are more hands needed, that means more insurance, certain financial and logistics processes. So we think that by a certain time frame, we will not exactly point to that time, but we'll say that the goal is to equip Ukraine with enough numbers of these vehicles with one goal in mind, which is offensive, right? And we also understand that this will happen when we finally destroy the capability of Russian troops for their offensive campaign to conduct that. And it's a silly proposition to attack on the attacking side. That's why you have defense. Then you go into defense and you waste their resources when they try to capture your positions. They'll be losing more. So once we grinded them down a bit, there'll be a time when we find them with pants down and not ready to hold their front. And then there'll be something after which Kharkiv operation might appear a small prelude to that bigger event. And with these supplies coming to us in the next, not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow, but it will happen, and it will make our situation much better. The most important outcome of this, of analyzing these data, is that one of the very big seals was broken. The seal that said Ukraine is not getting heavy armor and not getting armored vehicles. Right now we do have jets left. And here it's also, one needs to understand, if JDAM bombs are, if we get the refitting for bombs to become JDAMs, that is a new weapon that Russian aviation doesn't have. So we can switch that, and we can use that weapon on the front. That's already good. If NATO brings even the old Soviet fighters refitted, it means they will be refitted with avionics of a fourth-generation fighter from NATO. So those will be brought up by their capabilities to a level 4+ of a NATO jet of the fourth generation. So that's wonderful. All right. I don't know if you've seen, thank you, Alexei, if you've seen another video, they were showing Prigozhin, who is making statements in front of blurred faces of Wagner troops, and he's saying that your 6 months contract is coming to an end, and we are releasing you, and you're free from serving the rest of your time in prison. And he's not even discussing why and how, because if it's early release, that's one procedure. If it's pardoned by president, that's another process. So it looks like a complete fake, but it's something they can spread throughout the prison areas in Russia and say, hey, see how you can become free fast. And those people with blurred faces mumble something that, well, yeah, but we need to continue to finish our deal here, and we might want to stay. So what do you comment on that? Do you think, first of all, is there a possibility that any of them can remain alive 6 months after, in the way they're being sent into the fray near Bakhmut? It looks like it's an industrial conveyor for their destruction over there. So first of all, could there be ones who served for 6 months and survived, and then could they even release them like this? So it appears that like it's a staged video, but they are promoting it now. Okay, got you, Mark. Let's imagine for a sec that this is true. So there is an inmate who was in prison for some difficult 10-year or 20-year term, and he fought for these 6 months, and he's being released. What next? Will he start crying from the words of Prigozhin to not use drugs anymore? All right, yeah, to not rape and kill. Exactly. What's next? I forgot the name of the gentleman from Turkey who was all covered in tattoo and said some notes about Prigozhin's past. Oh, yeah, that was Sasha Kurara. So yeah, in his statement, there was a bigger statement where he said that you cannot change the way of life. You will end up in prison anyway. So these people who will be released now, possibly, where will they end up? Either in prison or out in the regular civilian life, right? Which, okay, they're not going to prison. Give them maybe a month out in the civil life and they'll put themselves back in prison again. So they likely will go into the same route. If they continue with what they were doing, they end up in jail again, and then maybe they will go to Wagner from prison, or maybe even go to Wagner directly after they commit something heavy, something atrocious in Russia, and they just go and get mobilized to Wagner troops to be pardoned again. So I think this is a very misty proposition. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's a real video. I don't think it's a real situation here. But they do need a video to promote Wagner troops to other inmates, and they do need to bring it up and show and say, hey, see, that's happening. What he promised is happening. Let's get more people. But again, roughly in a bigger scheme of things, any of the Wagner servicemen, what happens to them after? They will never be able to travel anywhere abroad because they were part of that terrorist group that was doing murder on the front. And then prison also authorities, criminal authorities, they also said that they are not accepting these offers by Wagner, and they are not supporting Prigozhin's ideas. So people who will go and fight, they will not be welcomed with open arms later in prison by the inmate community. So in general, if you were a prisoner, if you were a criminal, and then you went to the front and you created even more death and mayhem. So what's the outcome? They go back to prison, they get cut there and perhaps die, because that's not supported by the Russian criminal world. And then other option is what? Go fight in Wagner forever until you die there. Alexei, I can't even imagine how can you release a person in 6 months, for example, premeditated murder or robbery with a firearm. These are severe, right? These ones carry severe punishments. Well, imagine, Mark, again. Imagine they get let go from Wagner. What will those who are not released going to do? And also the Russian servicemen, what they would say. What about our 6 months contract? Because many of them signed a 3-month contract in the beginning, in April, and they believe that they'll be in Ukraine for just a couple of months. They will be able to rob and pillage and then come back to Russia. Nobody was let go. Cadre were not released, mobilized were not released, conscripts are not released, and then all of a sudden Wagner mythically finds a small group of people whom they can release 6 months later. So I would say Russian army would also start posing questions. What about us? We signed our papers back in March and I'm still serving here in December and January. What they're going to tell them? You're different. You are not like Wagner. You have to die here near Bakhmut and these criminal offenders will go home. So do you think it's a serious video? Do you think it's a serious situation? Of course, I don't think it is. But it's important for us to bring it up and discuss it. I agree, Mark, because this fake is being discussed and run in the Russian media, and we need to bring it up and discuss, to use the prohibited tool by Putin's regime of analysis of consequences. They're really not using it lately, right? And as a military man, I can just not imagine a situation when you bring it up with the group of fighters, soldiers in the front, and saying, hey, these people who were here for 6 months, they go home, and you who've been here from the beginning or from spring, you continue fighting. That'll be a big demoralization in the troops happening right after that announcement. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, Olexiy. We have not much time left, but there was another initiative, another piece of news about that, Dumb and Dumber Medvedev, who never ceases to amaze when we thought he cannot outdo himself. He created another post. I'll shrink that. It's a lengthy post. I get criticized often for being too nerdy and reading everything to the T. But he's basically threatening Potomac. I'm sure you know that river near Washington, D.C., and he is even using the phrase "son of a bitch." He has some English, right? Somebody wrote it for him. So he's calling Americans sons of bitches, and he's saying that they have a main gift. I'm quoting his Telegram channel, with zirconium missiles. Admiral Gorshkov cruiser is sent to the shores of NATO. That's a Russian gift for that situation, and that cruiser is carrying hypersonic missiles that can fly as fast as 9 times the speed of sound and can penetrate any anti-missile defense system. And let's put that cruiser a couple hundred and plus miles away in the international waters near Washington, D.C., and perhaps remind them about, and he calls Department of State moral monsters. He's saying that it's a crime for America to supply millions of dollars and to kill thousands of people by hands of Ukrainians in this proxy war. And that's where he ends it with sons of bitches. So it appears they sent him out to make, like in circus, to make a statement, to entertain people. And it's even not a question that Admiral Cruiser may not even fare too well in the ocean and probably won't even reach the targeted designated area. But why do you think they're sending him out? What's the point? How would you take it? Mark, you mentioning peace treaty and ceasefire, right? What are you talking about? We cannot... we cannot seriously agree to that. When in Belarus they have A-50 plane returned back to Belarus. Oh, tell us more. What is it? It's A-50. It's the mobile aerial command. It is being used to discover air defense systems from air. So basically a mobile aerial command post. And this is definite sign of preparation for the next missile strike with missiles and shaheds, analogous to what happened during the New Year. This is on the background of their peace talks, so not serious. Second, Zircon missile systems, do they exist? We know very little of that. As far as I remember, it was expeditiously added to Russian arsenal in the autumn of 22. Like most car owners know, you do not buy the vehicle the first year when it's released. And so same thing in military, even worse. The first year when something is expeditiously taken without even going through final tests. So yeah, it will have some issues. But still, let's imagine that Admiral Gorshkov cruiser is a super duper tested battle-ready ship. And it is indeed equipped with the latest in the missile systems of the world. So I understand that Medvedev is probably not just an alcoholic, he's probably also a drug user, because very often what he writes there is indicative of that. And people who are writing that to him know that he will definitely say it and be eager to repeat it. I don't know what Russian citizens are thinking about in this situation, because if such a ship comes to American shore and presents any threat, it will be sunk within 3 minutes. And once again, war is a big social-economic process. Everybody needs to be involved in order to achieve some results. Even if you had a big ship, even a Death Star for one, just as a one asset, it won't be able to change big war much. And any bright thing, like, we sunk the cruiser Moscow, it didn't change the flow of war much. Again, some of it, aspects, maybe on the front, but not dramatically. So not a single kind of weapon in one small quantity is capable to change the outcome of war or do any significant change on the front. 12 aircraft carrier groups, like America has, sure, they can change. 5 groups like China has, yeah, they can sway. But one cruiser with questionable seafaring qualities, I don't think it has a capacity to do that. What's upsetting is that I have to discuss that. And these news here, I understand this is our cross, yours and mine, but I can still complain about it, right? I was taught since my childhood to not bring up and discuss truisms and banal things that are obvious. So, unfortunately, now in the last months, I keep discussing exactly these things and even more stupidities done by Russian side. We don't even have a good enemy. I understand, Olexiy. The war will be over one day. It will be remedied. We'll find a way to remedy that. The end of a war and the victory is going to be a good one. Cause for that. I get it, Mark, but I probably sinned a lot in my previous life, and this is my punishment. I did mention that some were allied before. Probably that's my karma catching up with me, that I now need to discuss things that I hate to discuss. And yeah, anyway. It's important, Olexiy. We've been, 10 months now in this war, and we still got to discuss it. Yeah, Mark, I get it that things on the front are slow, so we need to find it within ourselves to discuss it at different angles. But Medvedev, this is a cherry on that cake. Oh yeah, I'm with you, Olexiy. I don't even understand how can he exist in his current capacity. He is a joke. Yeah, Mark, we will continue discussing them. I just wanted to cry in your shoulder a little bit. Did you read one Japanese author writer Yukio Mishima, he finished his life with a double suicide of lovers, a traditional suicide in Japan. And I think Putin and Medvedev remind me of these two lovers who could do that. So one did seppuku, and his lover needs to stick a knife in his throat in this case. So I'm waiting for that ending. That would be romantic. 360,000 people watching us. Let's discuss one more item, the results of the action Save Misha. I think we're getting reports of 35, probably more cities. We're still analyzing data. It started in Tokyo, in Australia, and ended in San Francisco, and went around the world to support Mikhail Saakashvili on the 4th of January from 12 to 2 local time. People came to the ambassadorial establishments and diplomatic establishments with demand to save Misha, save Mikhail Saakashvili, to give him a chance to treat his health outside of Georgia and recover. Right now we are waiting for the reaction. We know that Michael McFaul already wrote an article in Washington Post which is talking about that exact information, and he refers that Biden's administration is tracking that. We also hope, and I'm getting some letters from European Union, that Europe is also keeping its hand on the pulse of the story and the destiny of Mikhail. And I think they'll be asking questions of Georgian authorities. Where are you going? Are you going there with Russia, or are you going here with the West? Because now the question is transferring to a different pane. It's now switching to the matter of where are you politically. And there appears to be some torment happening in the Georgian government. So we'll see on the 9th of January where the next stage of his interrogation and criminal proceedings are scheduled to occur. So perhaps by that time he will be transferred to any better medical facility. If Georgian authorities fail to react and will continue with their taken course, we'll have to go for more actions. They will not be liked by Georgian authorities, but we don't have any other option. So we're turning to Georgian leadership to not make that situation, not make it worse. Okay, Mark, I have a commentary here. Remember Rudolf Hess? He was sent to Britain, and he was very close with Hitler, and he was sent on a plane to Britain to give them an offer proposal and discuss it. So he was detained, and he was kept in prison for about 59 years in prison. He stayed there, and he's a Nazi criminal, a very close confidant of Hitler. He lived up to 90 in prison, and we know, everybody knows, prison doesn't really help to gain any health, right? So still, they provided enough conditions for him to live there long. And here, current Georgian leadership is just striking out any perspectives of their integration into NATO, into European Union, and coloring the image of Georgia in dark colors. By the way, that image was created by actions of Saakashvili early on. And yeah, the medical statements that confirm that mercury and arsenic were found in his system. Do they think that Saakashvili is worse than Hess? What are they calling him upon? Corruption, some excess use of power? So, Nazi criminal lived in prison for 49 years, and Saakashvili is being attempted to be murdered in 2 years, right? This is quite a sad story. I'm still getting amazed at the way they're reacting. The head of their government reacted, remember, to our earlier statements in this show on a few occasions, and they were twisting what we said to make certain conclusions. I was amazed a couple times when they added their own meanings to what was discussed actually. Even I would have not gone that far, but they managed. So when some idiots from Ukrainian or Russian Facebooks are doing that, I get it. Okay, some people are just trolling and some people are dumb. But when the leaders of the country who are pretending to be leading the country to European Union and possibly NATO, that surprises me. I understand it's an amateur hour, but not a crazy amateur, right? I don't know. Olexiy, let's wait. Let's see what happens. Let's wait for their reaction because we promised to do that and we did. We did the first action. They did not believe that's possible. Now I think the lights are hopefully turning on in their heads, figuring out that, oh, yeah, indeed, these guys can affect situation. And once again, we do not want to interfere with Georgian politics. We want to take care of human rights. And yes, Mark, our statement, we would be helping any other person who would be in that situation like Mikhail. And especially, prison is not a cakewalk in any country, and post-Soviet countries for sure. And I am adding another meaning into the section that we are trying to preclude these atrocities and to shed light on the atrocities when people with poor health are getting tortured in prison. Or, again, if it was just a person, civilian without political background, that would be a story of human rights violation. But in this case, he is ex-president of Georgia, so there is only way to read it as the assassination and old political beef, and they just want to get rid of him, just want to kill him. So we're trying to save him. And that's why I'm asking everybody to support this action. We are fighting for the life of human. And to make sure that they cannot kill somebody else like that on camera, basically. And that if they try to do that again next time, the world will not remain indifferent. All right, then that's it for today. We have 370,000 watching us today. Over 100,000 click the like button. Please continue sharing, liking, and subscribing to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station. Our next stream will be happening tomorrow. Actually, no, the day after, on the 7th at 10 Kiev. And tomorrow we might bring a doctor and epidemiologist to discuss what's happening in China. A side note from Privateer Station, we still have one more stream to catch up from Christmas time, so we'll likely translate that. See you the day after tomorrow. Olexiy, goodbye.